Hello, I'm Simon. Welcome back to the workshop. Now today's an exciting day because I've just had this machine delivered by a nice man from the Pallet Network who was kind enough to help me into the workshop with this big box. Let's get it open. This is going to be an unboxing video just so you get an idea of how these sorts of machines are packaged and how they arrive if you order one. I bought this machine from a company called AMADEAL in northeast London. It does say Harry's Machine Shop written on the top. Now, one of the reasons I chose this lathe over a number of others, and it probably did put the price up a little bit, was I was worried about some of the things I'd read about Chinese lathes, that they can be put together quite poorly. This particular lathe comes with a test certificate with tolerances. So they've got a column here with what they expect and then a column here with what they've measured. So this gives me a little bit more confidence that it's been put together properly and I'm not going to have any unexpected surprises. Now this may not be the case. I guess someone could have just written all this stuff and not tested it, but I will at some point test these things and just see if they do reflect what has been written down. But I've got no reason to not believe that this has been done properly. The sorts of things they're testing are run out of spindle nose, run out of centre, run out of spindle taper, parallelism, who knows how you say that, of how parallel it is basically to the centre line of the spindle to the carriage movement in the vertical plane and the horizontal plane. The difference between two centres at the tailstock, parallelism of the tailstock quill to the carriage movement in the horizontal and vertical planes, parallelism of the tailstock quill taper hole to carriage movement in the horizontal and vertical planes, parallelism, I should have practiced this, shouldn't I, of centre line of the spindle to top slide movement, radial run out of the chuck and the radial run out of a test bar at a diameter of 20 millimeters. Now, I'll have to study this to really understand what these things mean, but it just gives me a little bit more confidence that it's been put together properly because someone has taken the time to actually write a test report and do the measurements. While you're watching this, I'll just go over some of the specs. So this is a 8x16 mini lathe from China. 8 means it can turn a 8-inch diameter piece, and the 16 means that between centres the maximum distance you can turn is 16 inches, which should be more than enough for what I want it for. One of the unusual features of this is at the headstock where the chuck is, it's got a MT5 taper. This gives me a 38mm bore through the chuck and out the back of the machine, which means that I can turn stuff that's longer than the 16 inches if I can push it through the bore, which may be useful, I don't know, but often on these mini lathes it's only a 20mm bore, so a 38mm bore is massively larger. The motor is a 1 kilowatt motor with a speed from 50 to 2500 RPM. It can do 10 metric threads and it can do 10 imperial threads. The tailstock has an MT2 taper on it and it's got a 50mm, that's about 2 inch of travel on it. The whole thing supposedly weighs 65 kilograms unpacked. Some of the other important features were that it came with metal gears rather than the plastic ones that you often see. The chuck is a 5-inch chuck, so it's quite a meaty thing. One of the things that does seem to be missing is it doesn't seem to have any turning tools. When I was researching Chinese lathes, one of the common things that people found was that to protect it during shipping, it had a very thick, horrible smelling grease over all of the parts. Now, this does have some thick oil on it, but I wouldn't necessarily call it grease, and it doesn't have any smell at all really. The videos recommended that you used a degreaser on it, and the manual also recommends you use a degreaser on it. I didn't really like the idea of the chemical smells in degreasers, so I thought I'd go for a more natural remedy. So I bought some of this stuff, CitraClean. It's made from orange peel. Now you'd think, being made from orange peel, that it would be pretty harmless, but when you read the warnings on it, harmful if swallowed, causes serious eye damage, wear protective gloves, protective clothing, eye protection, fabric protection. If swallowed, call a poison sensor. If you feel unwell, rinse mouth, rinse eyes for at least 7 minutes, etc, etc, etc. So it wasn't quite as friendly as I thought it would be. However, I'm still going to use it because that's what I've got, and I'm sure it'll smell lovely. So I'm wearing all my PPE. I took an executive decision not to wear hearing protection. Now this lathe did come with a little oiler, but it didn't come with the oil. This is Way's oil. It's a 68 viscosity oil. What that means is that basically it can work under high pressures, which the parts that move when they're when it's cutting, they are going to be under high pressure. So this is the right sort of oil to use. Some of the cheaper Chinese lathes don't actually have these little oil points, and you have to, or an upgrade you can do is to add them. This one seems to come with all of them. There are 4 on the carriage and 2 on the cross slides. All of these are little ball bearing ones, ball bearing oilers. This one here isn't even in the manual. Now I'm not expecting you to see this, but down here there's an oil port, and it should have a little ball bearing cap on it, and it hasn't. I can see it's threaded for a ball bearing cap, but it hasn't got one. There's a little oiler there that's missing. Now I know you can buy these for pence, so I'll probably just get one. I won't bother ringing up the manufacturer and asking for one. But here's the change gear assembly, which I can use the other gears that came with it to change the speed of the lead screw, and therefore change the gears that I can cut. And then this is the pulley system that allows me to change the speed. So there are 2 speeds. So this one here, it can be moved onto this pulley and onto this pulley to make it slower. There's a little safety switch here which this engages with, that allows you to, or prevents you from turning the machine on when the cover's off, basically. These say they should be greased with lithium grease. Before I take it off of its packing crate and put it in its new position in the workshop, I'm just going to turn it on and make sure that it works and nothing sounds a bit wrong with it. Now, one of the reasons I bought this lathe is it's got a 1000-watt brushless motor. That's pretty powerful for a mini lathe, and being brushless should mean that it's quieter and so on. So let's see. There are quite a lot of safety features that this lathe's got. So it appears to have, if you can hear that, a switch there. We've already seen the switch on the back, so you can't operate it without the back on. It's got a stop switch here, and a forward and reverse switch here, and then a speed dial here. So if I turn this on, it turns itself off again because this is in the off position. It needs to be in the forward, and now it's on. You can see it's on, and that's its lowest speed. So it's on the B set of gears, which is 100, and you can see it's running at 96 RPM. That's 700 RPM. On 1500. $2,350. That seems pretty good to me. Not that I really know what good and bad is. So let me go through some of the features on this lathe and why I chose it over other mini lathes that are available. It certainly wasn't the cheapest one that I could have got. And let's start with the tailstock. The tailstock has got proper adjustment for doing tapers if you want to, but that also means it's easier to align to the spindle. It's got a cam lock here that locks this in place. A lot of them come with a little bolt that you have to get a spanner in to lock this in place. I didn't want that. I wanted a proper handle that would lock it in place. The other thing is all of the handles have twisty bits on them, and they're aluminium, they're not plastic. And a lot of lathes, these will be plastic. A lot of the lathes don't seem to come with the oilers. That seems to be a mod that you have to do. Something else missing on a lot of these Chinese lathes is a threading dial indicator. This came included along with these lead screw covers. Now, as a complete novice when it comes to machining, I wanted the safety features such as guard, which you don't always see, although it's more common now, the switch that turns the machine off, the emergency switch, and all of these stop starts. I just wanted that sort of control. I also wanted the control of a variable speed and motor, which some of them don't have. Many don't come with these little ways wipers. Again, it's a mod some people seem to do, is to add these. This is just to keep the chips from getting underneath the carriage. The only thing it didn't come with was a quick change tool post. It's just one of the standard 4-way tool posts. So that at some point will be upgraded. Now, the lathe didn't come with any cutting tools, but I then remembered when I disposed of my father-in-law's old broken unrepairable lathe, I kept his cutting tools. So these are what I'm going to use. Now, these cutting tools don't actually sit high enough up, so I need to shim them. So I cut this piece of 3mm aluminium. I'm going to put that underneath, and it's still not quite high enough. If I add another piece of this 3mm aluminium, then it just looks a little bit too high. And I was wondering what I could use for shim stock, given that I'm completely new to this. I don't have many materials, and I found these steel Stanley knife blades, and if I use both of those, then that brings the height up to pretty much perfect. So that's what I'm going to use for my test cuts. I'll start with this old piece of aluminium bar stock that I got given. So the first thing I'm going to do is face off this piece of bar stock, and I'm doing this primarily to test the height of the tool. If I've got it right, then the tool will finish right at the very centre and there won't be any dimples, and it looks like I do have it right, which is great news. Now, I'm quite pleased with how this is cutting. It seems to be doing the job I expected it to do, and the cuts seem to be pretty nice. But I'm not a machinist yet. I really am on my first handful of cuts ever on a lathe. So my second-hand cutting tools, my tool height, my technique might all be wrong, and I may not be showing this lathe in its best possible light. So if you are an experienced machinist and you're looking at these cuts and thinking that perhaps you don't think they're as good as I do, then let me know in the comments. Let me know the sorts of things that I need to do to improve my skills, and I'm sure a lot of it is just practice and experience. But let me know, and also let others know, because I don't want people to think that these cuts are representative of what this lathe can do. I've sped these cuts up, but so that you can see just how quickly or slowly the lathe is cutting, I've included what factor I've sped them up by on the screen. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing of my new toy. It's something I'm very excited about. I'm still going to be doing lots of woodwork, so the channel isn't really changing, but I will be introducing aspects of machining to the things that I make. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a thumbs up. If you haven't already, then please subscribe. If you've got any comments or questions, especially about the lathe, if you want to know anything about it, if you're thinking of getting one, then leave them below and I'll answer them. Thanks for watching.